Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of ABA Mom Podcast, where we break down behavior in a way that makes sense for real life. I'm your host, Allie, a mom of five and a board certified behavior analyst. And can I just start by saying that this week it's our only Tuesday, and this week already feels crazy. I have had so many different issues with apps, and my YouTube actually stopped working. I tried to put it on for the kids in two different rooms, and I try to have my husband help me. I'm like, I don't understand why it's not just logging in, but I couldn't log into YouTube on the devices on kids YouTube or my YouTube, and it wouldn't let me sign on as a guest. So I don't know if that was an error, but just errors with technology today in general have just been so weird. And, I've just had to definitely work around it. So I don't know if anybody else has been experiencing those days where just technology doesn't seem to be going the way um, it could be going. Although I am a very big fan of technology, I think it can be very helpful. When it doesn't work, sometimes we get a little lost on what we can do. So I don't know if anybody else has experienced that. It definitely made for a more hectic day, but it's all about how you make it, how you interpret it. You can really let it get to you, or you can just kind of move on. Sometimes I always laugh and just say it is what it is right now, and hopefully it will work again. Today we're going to talk about something that is a very powerful tool to use for motivation, and that's modeling. And as simple as that sounds, a lot of people forget to use it, or they don't use it, or sometimes they start to use it and then they themselves lose motivation and they're no longer modeling behaviors. But modeling exactly what it sounds like. It's just showing somebody what to do instead of just telling them what to do. Because oftentimes children, adults, anyone in your life ever, including yourself, doesn't really like to be told what to do. So instead of being told what to do, like I hear parents, I also am guilty of it. It's like, I said that like 20 times, like they're not listening. But the best way to show them is through modeling. So you always want to model the behavior that you want to see. So if you want to see maybe like your person in your life, child, spouse, whoever, be more active, then you can model being more active. What are the results? What are the results of being more active? Results of being more active can be weight loss. That's a huge result. And that's definitely takes time. It's not something that one time you went to the gym and it's like, well, I went to the gym once and they didn't do it. Hey, it's got to be over time. It can't just be one time that you modeled it. But when they start seeing progress, right? Like, progress is a huge thing. When you start to see some of that reinforcement, it makes a huge difference. So if you're going to the gym, if you're doing things for weight loss, it definitely encourages other people. So even if you just make like a small change in your life, so maybe you want to start making your bed, which is not something I typically do. I love a made bed. But if I just decided to wake up every day and make my bed, right? That's something that I can model as a small change in my life. And it's influencing other people in my life, people in my home, maybe people outside of my home talking about making their beds, how good it feels to make your beds. So when people start to see the change in you and start to see that reinforcement, they're more likely to do it. So, and just think about it this way. Humans are wired to learn through observation. So infancy, we watch others and understand how the world works. Children don't learn to talk because we give them instructions. They learn because they watch and hear us constantly. My 1-year-old the other day was trying to say ball. It was the cutest thing. It was on Sesame Street. They had a bunch of balls on the screen and he goes, bah, bah. And he's trying to, we say echoic, right? But to imitate that sound, it's being modeled for him. So if there was no sounds, if they didn't hear words, there would be nothing to model after, right? So waving hi, blowing kisses, those are all things that young children, babies, toddlers learn how to do because it's something that's been modeled for them. It's something they've seen in their environment before. And typically what we do as adults is we see a baby do something, so blowing kisses, which is such a cute thing. I love the kiss blowing or the waving. It's adorable when they can do that, which my 1-year-old does now, and I absolutely love it, is we reinforce that. We say, my gosh, so cute. We provide lots of praise. Maybe we clap for them. We tell them they're doing a good job. And we maybe like we hug them and squeeze them. So we're giving a lot of reinforcement for that behavior. So they're like, okay. And so anytime you're reinforcing a behavior, good or bad, and I say that lightly, good or bad, so negative or positive behavior, you're going to see it more frequently. So if you are reinforcing that, then you are going to see more of that behavior in the future. More than likely, you will see more of that in the future because you are continuing to reinforce it. So the same principle applies when someone sees another person engaging in a behavior and experiencing success, enjoyment. That behavior becomes more valuable, and I'm just going to use this example because, you know, I don't know if you guys, those companies out there that try to sell you products and they get other people on board. How do they get people on board? Well, they're modeling some things, right? They're modeling success to some extent, right? So whether that success is on social media, maybe they're going on trips, and sometimes certain companies might, say like, "Oh, my company paid for this," right? I've been selling makeup, so now I get to go on this trip to Hawaii or whatever. So that's one thing. It's like that's very motivating. I want to go to Hawaii. How do I get that? And it may not be all that it seems. Just a disclaimer. But that is definitely, modeling. That's one way to lead the way. It's a great marketing strategy. So if it's like, I can do this, you can do this too. So I look great. I lost, all I did was, take these shots and I lost 70 pounds or whatever it is. And it's like, wow, like I want to lose 70 pounds. Like, okay, yeah, sign me up. And maybe you do. And that's awesome. But where did you get that from? You saw somebody else lose 70 pounds. So you want to get in on that you want to get on that weight loss and lose 70 pounds. So it's really important. Modeling we could see on social media, right? Just like kids sometimes, like babies, like imitating off the TV. Like we can see something on social media. It's like, ooh, I really like the things that they have and I want those things too. So that's one way that we see modeling. We also just like people in our home, like our home, the people we live with, people outside our home, like we see them and we don't always know the full story, but they're living, it looks like a great life or they're successful. So we want to get in on what is making them so successful. And that's very much human nature. And, when motivation is really low, we can't always see success looks like. We can't always see, what's going to happen, right? So sometimes when we have somebody else leading the way, it helps us know what we want and what success might look like for us. So think about a child who doesn't want to clean up toys. If you simply say, clean up, you may get some resistance. Or you say like, clean up now, right? You might get resistance. But if you start cleaning up yourself, or what I like to do a lot of times with kids is like, okay, like we're going to start this together, which sometimes that can be a really big chore, depending how messy it is. But it's something you're doing together and you're already modeling it. So you start cleaning up. Okay. And you can even say, oh, I'm putting the blocks in the bed. Suddenly the expectation becomes clearer. We can see what it looks like. Sometimes when we hear something like, how are we going to do this? Like, I need to organize my house. And then we see like a video on organization. Like it makes it easier for us to kind of break down those steps. Or if we have somebody modeling it for us, it's like, oh, like we need to put these bins and we need to put things away. So it does make it easier, more clear on what it looks like to pick up toys. It's like, oh, this is way more manageable and it makes it clear. Modeling also creates behavior momentum. So when someone sees an action in progress, they're more likely to join in. It removes the barrier of initiation too. This is especially important for individuals who struggle with executive functioning. So high ADHD, struggle with executive functioning. That can be a challenge. Sometimes it's just getting started. That is a challenge. Usually for me, and what I find with a lot of people with difficulty with executive functioning is that initiation can be so hard. But once you get started, that momentum gets going and it can be a lot easier. But that at first initial push, yeah, it's rough. It can be really rough. Modeling essentially just says, you can do this, watch me. So watch me, you can do this too. Modeling works best when it's paired with visible reinforcement. So, when someone sees that the model behavior leads to positive outcomes, praise, success, completion, enjoyment. So, how good does it feel? I swear, that's how I function and live my life is through a list or using my Google Calendar for certain things. And like once I can mark things off my list or my day is done, it helps so much to just feel that completion. And sometimes when we watch somebody else complete something, right? We're like, "Oh, yeah, this looks a lot simpler," because it's not as overwhelming if somebody can complete it. We can see somebody else completing it. So it definitely modeling increases the value of behavior. So for example, if you model completing a task, then say, "Man, that feels good to finish. I'm so proud of myself." You're not showing you're showing not just the behavior, but the reinforcement that follows it. So if you do something, you're modeling behavior, you can even give yourself praise, like for the things that you're doing. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing a great job picking up the toys and I'm putting them in the bin. That feels so good to have everything cleaned up. It over time will hopefully build intrinsic motivation. Here are some simple ways that you can use modeling in everyday life. The first, model it, behavior that is a pretty neutral response, calm during stressful situations, which is so hard and easier to like, or we think it's easier at the time, right? To yell. And then they'll listen to me if I raise my voice. But a lot of times, yelling is because that's something that we learned. That's something that was modeled for us. So it's something we learned, and that's how we learned how to parent. So using a calm voice in a stressful situation or being the calm in a stressful situation can definitely help. It can help you regulate your own emotions and it can also help in the situation. So instead of telling somebody to calm down, I mean, I think we're all guilty of saying that. And then sometimes when somebody says that to us, that is the last thing that we want to do. So instead of saying that, show them, how do you calm down? What does calm look like? Because it's going to be really hard to tell somebody to calm down when you are escalated. So if you can bring yourself to a neutral state and then model calm. Sometimes in those situations where I feel this stressful situation, I'm overstimulated, I will take myself away from the situation and have a break because it's so important. If you're just feeling overstimulated, like sometimes like as a parent with kids, we can feel those things and there's nothing wrong with taking a break because we want to teach our kids to be able to take a break. Everyone needs a break, and there's nothing wrong with that. I remember there was a parent that had their own noise canceling headphones, and I think that's great. Like, sometimes you just need to remove yourself from the situation. Sometimes it's from the noise, sometimes it's just from the environment. Sometimes maybe you can have, like, a partner or a friend that can give you a break too, or maybe you just need to walk in another room for a few minutes. It's okay to need a break, to be able to regulate yourself, to be able to take care of you so you can take care of your children. Another thing I think that's beautiful when we can take care of ourselves, because when we can take care of ourselves, we're modeling taking care of ourselves and how to care for ourselves, which I think as parents sometimes gets lost. So we always want to take care of our kids, do the best for them, but sometimes we have to take care of ourselves too and listen to what our body needs. So, second, modeling communication. So, if a child needs to ask for help, demonstrate saying, help, please, or hey, do you need help with that? I need help. I like to ask for help. So sometimes, like, I can't open a jar of mayonnaise and I'm like, hey, like, somebody help me. But you want to model asking for help. So, third, model flexibility. When plans change, you say out loud, that's okay, it can get adjusted. So sometimes that can be really hard and it can be frustrating, like, especially it's like last minute or there's a cancellation, right? It's definitely one. Also, road rage. So if somebody like something unexpected happens, right? You're going one way, somebody cuts you off, right? Or you're stuck in traffic, all of those kinds of things. So that's an important time to keep calm too. And no, it is not easy. And you just the one thing you just say to yourself is that's okay. I can adjust. That's a good way or a good response. Um, to model to your kids because a lot of times the things that we as adults find frustrating, um, or annoying, are really little solvable things. Sometimes they're not, and that's okay. Sometimes they really are big problems, but when they're like really small problems, like somebody cut you off or somebody's walking really slow in front of you at the grocery store, that happened to me the other day. Sometimes you just have to let that go and just model the appropriate behavior. It's like, that's okay. It's all right. Small problem. We'll figure it out. The key also is consistency. So, motivation, you can't just go to the gym once and say, oh, look, I modeled going to the gym. Like, you've got to be more consistent about it. So, motivation grows through repeated exposure, through modeled success. So, you have to be consistent. Like most things that I have discussed with ABA principles, you've got to be consistent with it. So, modeling, it can take time. You might mess up one day, like maybe it's like, oh, shoot, I yelled at the kids. Like, I shouldn't have yelled, or I shouldn't have done this, right? Like, don't beat yourself up. Just do something different next time. Just next time. So, here and there, it may not be perfect every time, but as consistent as you possibly can. And learning as an adult, if you did have a household that was emotionally dysregulated, it can be really difficult to learn to regulate your emotions and have emotional maturity, and to have slip up sometimes is totally normal. You just kind of learn every day as you go. And I think as adults too, so I'm saying like we're the models, right? We're talking about like the kids, like we're the models for our kids, but to find your own model, like who do you want to model after? Who's like somebody that's like a really calm person in your life? You know what? That's a really good idea. I like what they said, that they said that that's okay. And they just accepted it, and they weren't yelling and they weren't mad. They just moved on. And I think that's a really beautiful thing when you can find somebody yourself that is a great model in that way. And maybe it's not even a person that you know in real life. Maybe it is. So there's all kinds of people on, on social media that maybe they seem really calm, but that helps us too. That helps us to know what's next or how to emotionally